What is Star Wars? That is the question of the day. So this is a completely random video. Haven't done Star Wars content in a while. I was pondering this last night. I was watching Echo Base Network, which is, I only subscribe to two Star Wars channels. Star Wars Theory, who has 4 million subscribers, or maybe 3 million or 4, I don't know, 3 million I think, and maybe 4, I don't know. So if you like Star Wars, you're auto subscribed to that guy. And then Echo Base Network is the other one that I've been subscribed to since day one, since inception of their channel. So I watch those guys' takes. This isn't going to be a review of anything. It's not going to be a review of Star Wars content or anything like that. I usually leave that to those two channels that I've just mentioned. And it's just my random thoughts. I'd love to discuss this with someone if somebody is open to discussing it. I was thinking about Star Wars, and some questions came up on their stream just talking about Ahsoka, which is the newest show that's been offered. And some people are really enjoying this program, and other people are kind of like, eh. There's talk about how the lightsabers work. It's a bit of a pet peeve of mine where I remember in the High Republic issue 1 where they had a guy or a girl, a Jedi, falling from a height, and then the person used the lightsaber and shoved it into like a mountain, and then that was supposed to stop them from falling, but that wouldn't work, right? It's like a laser, it's like energy laser. It just would just keep cutting through. Like there's not friction that's building up and then it stops. It's not like a blade into a mountain where it would, finally just stop on itself. I don't think it wouldn't work that way. Now, I'm not a lightsaber expert. I did take all of the advanced science and math courses, physics and chemistry and biology and all that. No, I didn't take biology. Sorry, I lied. Physics and chemistry and algebra and calculus. I took all of those up to grade 13 in the advanced levels. But that was many years ago, so I don't remember all that. I'm more of an arts guy. I don't know why I took all those courses. Anyway, so I don't know if that's but I don't think a lightsaber would work that way. I remember when Qui-Gon got stabbed in The Phantom Menace, and he just auto-died. Like, he got stabbed in the gut and he auto-died. And I've seen Phantom Menace many, many times, more times than I should really even reveal to you. But he's definitely stabbed in the gut and he dies. And then we saw Reva from the Obi-Wan Kenobi television show, which I did not think was very good at all. I think she got stabbed and just kind of walked it off. And then I guess someone in Ahsoka got stabbed. I don't know the characters. I did not watch the Clone Wars, though I own all of it on Blu-ray, and I didn't watch Rebels, though I did see maybe like the first 5 or 6 episodes of season 1. If there's even more than season 1, I don't know. I think it's Sabine, who I think is from Rebels, and she got stabbed in the side or something, and people are like, well, she's okay. No, she's not. Like, if you're given that a pass, that's up to you to decide. That is the thing that triggered my train of thought here, which I'm going to present to you in this video, where I started to think, well, what is Star Wars at this point? If we look at conventional brands or franchises that not even are just, IPs, but even just brands. Like, if you look at, I couldn't think of any other example, but let's say like Nike or Reebok or something. So Nike was shoes, right? And they're sort of a brand, and it used to be, well, we sell shoes, and then now they do apparel, and and I don't know if they even have sports equipment. I literally don't know. Maybe they have tennis rackets or hockey sticks or something, or like a basketball or what. I literally don't know. But to me, it's like a sport. It became a sports brand, right? So there's other sport things. It wasn't just shoes. It kind of expanded. Look at maybe perhaps like a Godzilla or a James Bond type thing, where James Bond is a series of novels, which then got turned into a series of films, which then continued on past the creator's passing. So Ian Fleming passes away. The novels continue in some other form. I'm sure there are some sort of audio adventures, right? We've had cartoon series like the Young James Bond Jr. kind of cartoon. So we've had comic book series as well. So James Bond is sort of a franchise, I guess, where it's based around him. Now, they were going to do a Jinx film. I remember that, based on the Pierce Brosnan, I think it was the Fire and Ice movie. What the hell was it called? Die Another Day. And that didn't go anywhere, right? So I guess that would that have been a spinoff? Let's take John Wick. You know, that's a franchise, I suppose. There's 4 films. There's going to be that ballerina spin-off thingy. There's going to be a television series based on the Continental, like those hotels that you've seen. So that's sort of your brand or franchise, and it kind of, you know, moves out. He-Man, Masters of the Universe branched out, different cartoons, She-Ra, you know. But Star Wars, I don't even know what Star Wars is anymore. I don't even think it's a brand. Star Wars it's not a franchise. It's almost a medium. And the way, because there's apparel, there's toys, there's comic books, there's young readers books, there's picture books for little kids, there's little cutesy baby toys, there's films, there's audio adventures, there's strips, like newspaper strips, there's comic books, there's novels, and all of them kind of just exist. Cartoon series and offshoot films, and it was a franchise when it was just the 3 original movies. You had the 2 Ewok films, you had the special, and you had those 2 cartoons, Droids, Ewoks, and then you had your 3 prequel films with George Lucas. And Star Wars fans had to compartmentalize these things, because you'd read, let's say you read something like Shadows of the Empire or Heir to the Empire or something, and now I didn't read those novels, so they don't exist as Star Wars in my mind, right? And people are like, well, those are really cool, Thrawn and all of this stuff here. Well, okay, that's fine. And then does it contradict George Lucas things? Well, considering the fact that George Lucas himself even has contradictory points within the films themselves that he was behind, especially prequels going to the original trilogy. Then there's so many little offshoots and different brands. Like, I actually know someone who collects the Star Wars action figures, particularly the little ones with the many joints, like the black series, but not the big ones, the 3 3/4 black series. I don't know if that's what they're called. I have tons of those. I'm a Star Wars, like, the original trilogy is in my top 5 best films of all. I call them one movie, so I cheat. It's all 3 of them are one movie. They're my top 3 or 4, you know. It's like my favorite movies: Conan the Barbarian with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I like 2001: A Space Odyssey. I like Superman with Christopher Reeve. And then I probably like, and then Empire Strikes Back, if you have to pick one, but let's say original trilogy. So it's my 4th favorite movies. Just those, the 3 unaltered. For the vintage Star Wars actual figures, I have every single one from Empire Strikes Back, not missing a figure. Return of the Jedi, I don't have those later ones, those Power of the Force figures. And for original Star Wars, I'm only missing Princess Leia and Blue Snaggletooth, because I'm not gonna be able to get that. And I don't have I don't have like anything weird. Like, I don't have any of the weird alternate versions. And I don't remember if I have a big head, small head Han Solo. I don't know. I didn't really think of all of that stuff when I was getting all of those years ago. So to me, Star Wars exists as the original 3 films unaltered and the vintage toy line. That is what and the 2 Ewok movies and the droids and Ewoks cartoons. And I guess the holiday special, which I kind of ignore, right? But that's Star Wars. Now, novels, I do have a bunch of novels, actually. I've got the the Bounty Hunter series. I have the Tales of the Bounty Hunters. I have the Tales of Jabba's Palace. Those are the old books that I have. And I have in digital form from Comixology, I have all of the collected newspaper strips. And so that Han Solo trilogy thing, I've got digital Kindle versions of the Lando series and all of that kind of stuff. And I have some comic books here and there in digital format. I've got all of those Heir to the Empire, whatever I don't know how many they were. The whole Dark Horse thing. I've got all of those on Comixology. So they're digital purchases. So that's Star Wars to me. Now the prequels, I have just got to the point where I accept those as George Lucas, and I would now say that the core Star Wars to me is the 3 Lucas prequel films, 3 unaltered original trilogy. That's it. 2 Ewok films. That would be Star Wars to me. I know Clone Wars, everyone says it's a great cartoon. I own it. It's there somewhere. It's there in there somewhere. Blu-ray. And I own Rogue One, and I really like Rogue One. I own all of the JJ movies, which are really despicable, but I own them just because to own them. What else? Solo, I have that, of course. And I own what I can buy. I have like 1 season of Rebels. I don't know if there's more than one. So, and I like Mandalorian season 1 and 2 and all that. But it's to the point now where this has become more of a medium than anything else, because people will say, well, does Ahsoka continue from Rebels, or does it link up with Clone Wars? I don't know. It's like if you're watching a network television, I don't know, like pick some network. I don't know if these shows are on. Let's say you're watching like Frasier and you're watching Friends. Let's say those are your 2 shows, and I don't know if they're on the same network. Who cares? Pick 2 shows from one network, and you'd say, well, does Frasier connect to Friends? Well, no. Like, what does Friends connect to Golden Girls or something? It's like, no. It's like, why would it, right? Like Cheers and Frasier connect because it's literal connections. But why would you assume that just because they're all part of one network, why would you assume that each show connects to each other? It doesn't work that way. Do these new Star Wars properties, does the High Republic connect to George Lucas, movie? Well, no. I guess Rogue One connects to Episode 4, which I just call Star Wars. Does it connect to that? Well, sure, because the ending directly links to Star Wars. But do I care? Like, if Rogue One was removed, it wouldn't matter to me, even though I really like Rogue One. So we're at this point where Star Wars has become just a logo. It's not even a brand, right? Like, I don't know what else to call it. Like, it is a medium. It's a medium for storytelling. And some people tell all these stories and you're like, oh, does this have anything to do with Skywalker and the trilogy? It's like, well, no, it's just a bunch of new stuff. And then you're like, well, how come the lightsaber here can, kill Qui-Gon Jinn in one shot, and then this other character, this woman, can walk it off and be like, oh, there's a bit of a scar. Like, wouldn't it melt her entire body or whatever? And even Kylo Ren, I don't know if it was Finn or Rey, one of those 2 characters, gave him that scar. Wouldn't his face be melted off or something? I mean, I don't know. So how do we judge these things? It's almost like every single Star Wars property almost has to be judged in a vacuum at this point. Like, you can judge it amongst its own thing. So you can judge Mandalorian season 3 in comparison to Mandalorian season 1. But can you even judge Book of Boba Fett in comparison to Mandalorian? I don't know if you can, because everything is so vastly different. It's almost like people just take a liberty, and if you're let's say if you're a manga reader, Viz distributes digitally, and also they used to do physical copies, and also they do those tankobon volumes, which we would call like a trade paperback collection. And you would say, well, does Naruto, does that connect to One Piece, or does One Piece connect to One Punch Man, or does it connect to Attack on Titan? And obviously a manga reader would be like, well, no, that's silly. Why would you even ask such a silly question? So the question is that does Ahsoka belong with the Droids cartoon? I don't know. Maybe, right? And you're watching, let's say you're watching the Andor series, and perhaps there's some monster in the back. I don't know all the monster names. Okay, I've got the toys. I got a shit ton of Star Wars toys. Like I got Vader's lightsaber. I got tons of toys, like tons of Star Wars stuff. So I'm a Star Wars guy, but I can't. It's like I also like manga. I also like Marvel and DC, but and I know that Marvel has its shared universe, and the comic universe is different from the cartoon or from the cartoon universe, and also the cinematic universe. So things that happen in the cinematic universe don't affect the Marvel comics. You wouldn't compare those two. You wouldn't link those up. Even some of the shows, they kind of link up, but some of them kind of weirdly don't. Like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of went off on its own. So I don't know. It's like Marvel has become almost a medium in the sense where, anything goes. I can read a Marvel comic today and watch a film. I can read a Doctor Strange comic right now and then watch a film of Doctor Strange and be like, hey, that doesn't connect. What happened? Well, that's because in the movie they did this and in the comic they did that. And I understand that Captain America has, or Thor has a very long history in the comics, and it's really impossible to capture that in a film. So the movies are separate. But the movies even themselves would have, where were the Eternals during, we didn't decide to act. You didn't decide to act when Thanos was going to kill everyone, but you decided to act against those evil things that you were fighting. Like, okay, so it's weird, right? So these big franchises aren't even franchises anymore because, usually James Bond wouldn't like really undercut itself or change. Like they wouldn't say, hey, James, remember when you killed this person? They show a flashback and then that didn't happen and they just made up one. It didn't really happen like that. And it was a different mindset. Now you've got this mentality of, is this canon? I mean, what is canon anymore? I mean, my opinion would be that if it's canon, if George Lucas is the creator and the creator is still alive, and the creator says this is canon, then that's canon. If Ian Fleming was alive right now and he wrote a book, because the novels continued after his passing, let's say, and one of the first ones the first one I ever read was, I think it was called Nobody Lives Forever. That's not even Ian Fleming. I didn't even realize that wasn't the guy. Like, I'd read that so long ago, perhaps when it came out, I'm not sure, but I had it as a little kid when I could kind of just, you're just learning to read or whatever. Then finally I got old enough to actually read the thing, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And turns out that's not even an Ian Fleming book. So let's say if Ian Fleming right now was alive and wrote a novel that contradicted what happened in that book that I read, I could say, hey, Mr. Fleming, you just contradicted this book. And he could say, well, F that book because I didn't write it and that ain't canon. And I'd be like, well, I guess you're right. You're the creator. So what is canon anymore? I don't know. What does it even matter? Really? Star Wars has become, for lack of a better term, I don't know what to call it, it's become a medium. It is just now something, it's sort of like a broadcast station where things get broadcast and created and books get written and there's t-shirts. Like, there's a lot of people that are buying Star Wars t-shirts and they didn't see all of the movies and all of the shows. It's impossible. A friend, fellow YouTuber, Sean, who comes on my channel all the time to do live streams, he has his own channel. The link to his channel is in the description. He just did a High Republic breakdown. It was about an hour, 20 minutes or so. Sean read almost all of phase 1 and some of phase 2, and even he couldn't read all of it. He's like, I just don't have enough time to devote to all of these things. So he's like, well, I'll just read the novels or whatever, right? Again, what is Star Wars then? I don't even know. Like, someone's like, oh, is Star Wars dead? Is Star Wars back? Has Ahsoka saved Star Wars? Has it even gone down even further? It's literally like saying, well, is television back? What do you mean is television back? Depends on what show and what network and, what time slot. Like, and, is it a streaming service? Like, is Netflix dead? I don't know. Like, it's whatever content they get, right? Like, it's not a thing anymore. It's like Star Wars has become like a Netflix or like, it's like NBC. It's like, if the show sucks, they cancel it. Is NBC dead? I don't know. So Star Wars isn't a thing. It isn't like a thing anymore. It's not like, oh, this all connects. You can just skip stuff. Like I didn't watch Andor, so now that I didn't watch Andor, can I still watch Ahsoka? It's like, sure you can. All right. It's like, oh, I didn't watch Empire Strikes Back. Can I watch Return of the Jedi? It's like, well, no. Right? I didn't watch Star Wars. Can I watch Empire Strikes Back? It's like, well, no, not really. It's like, I didn't see Raiders of the Lost Ark. Can I watch Temple of Doom? Sure. Why not? It's Indiana Jones. He goes after treasures. This is why I don't like Last Crusade or the Crystal Skull, and I really despise this new one. The other two, I'm okay with them, but as soon as you start introducing elements where there must be a continuation, like where is his father? Oh, he's dead. We have to explain that he's dead. Where is his son? Oh, we have to explain that his son is dead. Oh, where is Marion? Oh, he left her. That went against the brand of Indiana Jones, who is a one-contained character who goes on adventures for different objects. He can have friends that he comes across every so often to help him in these adventures. He might have a different sidekick. He might have a different love interest, just like James Bond. James Bond goes on different missions. The second you, now obviously M is the same or whatever, or Q is the same. Okay, that's fine. You can have your contacts. Q provides you with your gadgets. But as soon as you say, even when he got married, they killed her in the same film. So that took care of that storyline within that movie. You never have to reference it again, though they did reference it later. But Star Wars now has become this thing where it's like, can I watch the original trilogy without seeing the JJ movies? Well, of course you can, right? You don't need to watch those. Can I watch the original trilogy without watching the prequel trilogy? Well, for sure. Right? Can I watch the prequel trilogy and not continue? Yeah, I suppose that you could if you wanted to. You don't have to watch episode 4. You could just be like, well, that's it. It's like they all went in hiding. But you kind of have to continue those, right? So it's a little weird. Can you watch the can you watch the 3 prequels and the original trilogy and skip Rogue One? For sure. Because we didn't have Rogue One until afterwards. So what's canon? I don't know. So the bottom line is, and I've already talked too long, the bottom line is that Star Wars can be whatever you want it to be. Based on that, it's difficult to say is it dead or not. So I don't know. You tell me. Is it dead? Is it not? I don't know. And there's going to be people who say, well, you should watch Ahsoka. It was really good. Okay, I'll get to it. Andor got better. The problem is that if this was if Star Wars was treated as a streaming service that had different things, you don't go on Netflix and say, oh, I'm a fan of Netflix, so I'm going to watch everything that Netflix produces. That's not really how that works, because you're judging each thing on its own. Like, I just watched Heart of Stone with Gal Gadot. I thought it was a pretty fun movie. It's like a 7 out of 10. I didn't review it because what am I going to review? It's like a 7 out of 10. It was fine. It was good. But does that mean I'm going to, should I watch Extraction? Like, do they connect? Like, what about Wednesday? Does that connect? Like, no. Like, why would you even ask that? It's silly. So Star Wars has become sort of like a streaming platform where a bunch of shows come out that all have to do with space. That's the only thing they have in common is space. Because the lightsabers, sometimes they kill you, sometimes they don't. It's whatever the person feels like at the time. I thought if a lightsaber even touched you, you're dead. So in my opinion, the lightsaber thing, just to give you my opinion on that, it really diminishes the importance and coolness of the lightsaber, in my opinion. So I think that's a super fail. And it might be a fail to say F the show, because if you can't even get a lightsaber correct, I don't know what you're thinking. But again, everything is just so compartmentalized that it doesn't even matter anymore. Like, there's going to be someone who just watches Mandalorian and be like, I actually know a guy who has seen the original trilogy, nothing else, and Mandalorian season 1 and 2, that's it. Maybe he saw Mandalorian season 3. I haven't talked to him in a while. That's it. He has not watched. He didn't, and he hadn't. And I said, why don't you watch the prequels? He's like, nah. He doesn't care. I know someone who has watched every episode of Star Trek Voyager 3 or 4 times over. He has seen all of Voyager 3 or 4 times completely, like, over. All of it. Has never seen a Star Trek movie, original series, Deep Space Nine, which is basically kind of the creative team. No Next Gen, no Picard, No, whatever that garbage cartoon is, Lower Decks, which I wouldn't watch, and I wouldn't wish anyone to watch that trash garbage thing. He hasn't. He's only ever seen Voyager. And I know another guy, and I'll leave you with this. I know another guy who's only watched Next Generation, never saw original series, never saw Deep Space Nine, didn't think to watch even the films of Next Generation. I'm like, oh, did you like, Insurrection or whatever? Oh, I didn't watch that. Did you watch First Contact? Nah. I'm like, that was pretty good. Oh, no. Oh, okay. So there you go. There's my Star Wars rant. Guys, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on all of this. Am I crazy? Anyway. All right. Until next time.